Hello, welcome and welcome back to Alice's Crochet Corner. I'm super excited to crochet with you today as this will be one of the easiest and quickest crochet projects for you to make. We only use the half double crochet stitch and both pairs take less than an hour to make. Let's get right into it. These are the materials that I am using today. You can use any type of yarn you like. I am personally using acrylic yarn, but feel free to use any type of yarn that you like to use. We are going to first start by creating a slip knot. How I like to do mine is I twist my yarn to form a loop, insert the tail end of my yarn through that loop with my hook and tighten, but not too tight. Next we are going to chain the length of what we want our hand warmer to be. So for reference, I want my hand warmer to start about here and end about here. So we're going to chain the length of the hand warmer. We are going to chain 38. This is what one chain looks like. We continue until we have reached a total of 38 chains, or however long you like your hand warmer to be. I have finished chaining the length of the hand warmer, and for me it's about 23 centimeters. After we have chained the length of the hand warmer, we are going to chain 2 more, and then we are going to work a half double crochet into the third chain. To do a half double crochet, we wrap our yarn around our hook once, insert our hook into that third chain, grab our yarn and pull up a loop. We now have 3 loops on our hook, and then we wrap our yarn around our hook and pull through the remaining 3 loops. That's our first half double crochet done, and we are going to go ahead and do a half double crochet in every chain. So again, wrapping our yarn around our hook, inserting our hook into that next half double crochet and pulling up a loop, wrap our yarn around our hook and pull through all 3 loops. And so we repeat this for every chain. I'm going to do a few more with you. And as you can see, we've got our half double crochet in every chain. We just repeat all the way until the end. After working one half double crochet in every chain, we should have a total of 38 half double crochet stitches at the end of this row. To start our next row, we are going to chain 2. This does not count as a stitch as this will be our turning chain. We are going to turn our work, and we're going to work a half double crochet in the back loop only. So wrapping our yarn around our hook, skipping the first 2 chains, working in the back loop only, grabbing our yarn and pulling up a loop, wrap our yarn around our hook and pull through all 3 loops. So our half double crochet is almost exactly the same, except instead of inserting our hook through both loops, we're only inserting our hook through the back loop only. What this does is it creates this really nice ribbed effect. We are going to repeat until we've reached the end. I've worked another row of half double crochet in every stitch, and at the end of this row we should also have a total of 38 half double crochet stitches. I'm going to go ahead and have a total of 18 rows of the half double crochet stitches, and I'll meet you when we're done. I have done a total of 18 rows of the half double crochet. One helpful way to count is that these bumps counts as 2, and I've gone 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. For size reference, we are looking at about 16 centimeters, and what we're going to do is we are going to fold it in half for it to be the right size to fit our hand. I have made my hand warmer so that it is nice and tight so it fits snug, but if you prefer it to be loose, you can absolutely do more rows so that it would be a wider hand warmer. Just before we start joining the two sides together, we are going to use a stitch marker so that we know how far we are joining. So for me, I'm going to join about 13 centimeters one side. So I'm going to roughly gauge 13 centimeters. And then we are going to figure out how big of a hole we would like for our thumb. I want it to not be too tight around the thumb because it can be quite uncomfortable. So I'm giving myself about 5 centimeters. So I'm going to now mark the next point, like so. So we are going to be joining the two sides up until the first stitch marker, and then again on the other side of the other stitch marker. There are various ways that you can join. I am going to join with doing a slip stitch, but you can sew if you prefer. And so we're going to go back into lining up our stitches right next to each other. And so this is where we've chained 1. We're going to insert our hook into the stitch right next to the chain 1, through the first side, and then onto the other side as well. We're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop and pull through, and then onto the next stitch, again going through both sides, grabbing our yarn and pulling up a loop, and pulling through again. We are just going to be repeating this all the way until we have reached our next stitch marker, or our first stitch marker. Once we have reached our first stitch marker, we're not going to cut our yarn or anything yet. We're just going to try on our hand warmer. And I can get a gauge to see how it wraps around my wrist and my hand at the moment feels comfortable, and it definitely does. I'm very happy with how it's looking at the moment, so I'm going to continue on. So what we do here is we're going to cut our yarn, but it's important that we leave a fair bit left so that we can weave in our ends, and then we're going to start on our next stitch marker. After cutting our yarn, I am going to chain 1 from where we've done our last slip stitch so that we can weave this end in later. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch marker, like so. We're going to grab our yarn through all the loops and chain 1, and then we're going to go through that same stitch and pull up a loop and pull through that chain 1. You want it to be extra secure just because that's where we've essentially started and we don't want it to come loose easily. We'll go and insert our hook into the next stitch just like how we've been doing before, and continue on with our slip stitch. And we're just going to continue on all the way until the end. After we have reached the last stitch, we chain one again, we cut our yarn and weave through. Before we do anything, before we start weaving in the ends, I'm going to remove the stitch markers and turn our hand warmer the right side facing up. It's now called the right side because we've joined on the inside. We're just going to insert our hand through and just make sure we are very happy with how it looks, which I absolutely am. And once we are sure we are absolutely happy with it, we can weave in our ends. To weave in our ends, we're just going to weave it through a few stitches and make sure that we cover as many stitches as we can. So you'll see that this is where I've chained one. I'm going to go through that again, almost essentially creating a double knot, because the start of each bit is a lot looser, and it's also where we're going to move our hand in and out the most, so we want to make sure it's nice and secure. And I just like to go through as many stitches as I can. And there we have it. And we just go ahead and repeat the exact same process for the other ends as well. After creating our first hand warmer, we're going to go ahead and repeat the process exactly the same for our second hand warmer. There's no left or right differences, and then I'll meet you when we're done. I have now finished with my second hand warmer. I'm very excited to try these. I'm loving how cozy they look and feel. This is so pretty and they feel so nice and snug. I love that it's customizable and perfect fitting for me personally. I mean, you can also use a general size as a gift, but I think what's beautiful about this is that it's entirely customizable, tailored for the size that you need. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this tutorial today. As always, it means the world to me. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.